Big Mom strategies in yellow tend to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of what they're trying to do in order to leverage things like that soul focus. So definitely, being aggressive against something like Law is, like we saw last game, even Magellan, which is typically a slower deck, was able to, in a sense, outrace or out tempo the Law player in the mid game. So I want to see this Lim Lim player do the exact same thing.
Really do the same, and it was able to do that by just beating the hell out of it. And I think I want to know if we can see that as well. This is like a really weird camera setup. I don't. This must be so awkward to play to try to prevent your opponent from seeing your hand. But yeah, that's gotta be weird.
It's a little strange. Definitely, some glare might factor into looking a little bit at the cards, but for now, we do see that it's just a one drop trying to find a Big Mom card, and we see the 2K counter option available there, and now probably not another one drop to be played here, so it's just going to be a pass most likely. Going second, definitely something beneficial for the Lilim or just any yellow deck in particular, because they can go ahead and 8 drop and 10 drop on curve, and we're going to get to see if this player can do that effectively on curve. And we do see actually a beginning 2 one drops, so actually a perfect start from yellow here. Just going to go ahead and check what his options are. And I do think that it's just kind of a funny little camera angle, but for the most part, I mean, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah, this is crazy, bro. I don't know what to say about this one, man. Yeah, that's a little weird, but anyway, I mean, it's fine. Our little Charlotte putting there, grabbing a nice Katakuri. Just a great card at dealing with law blockers, right? Just get it out of here, and then I can crit it later with my 10 drop Big Mom.
So we get to see a attack for 5 here. Typically, I do fully expect. Oh, and here is the first trigger. So a Brûlé played on turn 1, definitely going to insulate an attack later on in the game. So a good trigger to have. Typically, you want to try, at least in the early game, if you don't know how aggressive exactly your opponent's type of deck or build is, just block the 5s just in order to consistently get to your 10 drop turn, without that much pressure. But taking that life and it actually being a trigger works out just fine for the Lim player, and then we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah. Yep, pretty good start. And we have 4 Dawn here, so we can go ahead and establish one of our 4-cost characters. We can do a Para Sparrow and then have a floating Dawn to mess around with. And we got plenty of options here, basically. Having the Brûlé is nice. If it doesn't get clipped by like a Vista or something, it'll just be nice to block an attack at some point.
Yeah. Do see going the Dan into a 1-drop also pretty ideal from the side of the Law player, and it's good to see both decks running full steam. Not want to have an on game from one side or the other. We'll see how it develops.
Okay. All right, so we're taking our sweet time. I think it's just I think it's going to be a little slower just based on the fact the way he's going to holding his hand really just takes a lot more time than the way a normal setup would be. I'm going to go 5, and we're just going to take that life, and that's nice. Again, 4 Dawn, plenty of options here. Let's see what he goes for. Para Sparrow.
There's a Para Sparrow you mentioned earlier. Definitely being deliberate on whether or not he wants to attack for 5, attack for 6, play a 4-drop, play a 3-drop. Turn 4 typically decently important in a yellow deck, and actually a surprising play here. We saw this early in the beginning of the day to deal with an Ezo from Zoro, but here it actually means a lot more than just simply dealing with a 1-drop. It deals with a blocker, which is good in the form of Chopper, but it also stuns the ability for Law to go for shambles if he doesn't have exactly 3 1-drops in his hand this turn.
One thing he did that I don't actually like was he popped the Chopper over the Nami. I definitely just don't like that. I think so. Here's how, I guess you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, if you agree or not. The nature of a blocker is that it will eventually remove itself, whereas the nature of Nami in Law is that she can additionally draw an extra card after you switch her around. So it just feels better to hit that. And then actually he's just going to attack with it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so here, for a lot of reasons, I do feel like removing Nami over Chopper would have been optimal. Certainly, the fact that it is an engine card, like you're mentioning before, if he doesn't have another copy of Nami in his hand, it would actually be difficult to accrue some sort of card advantage from the law side. And at the same time, you get to see this Makino get maximum value from
Yeah.
buffing up the Nami and being able to swing. So definitely a lot of different reasons why the Nami could have been the better target. As things stand, getting rid of the chopper lets the yellow player be a little bit more aggressive later on.
Yeah.
But
This, oh, yeah. See, this double, oh, yeah. Pick it up, play law, pick up mock. Yeah. Oh, this is disgusting. Like, yeah, it definitely would have benefited to hit the Nami, I think, because now he's got a Nami in hand for next turn. He was able to attack with it. He cycled his Machino very effectively. I think, oh, that was just, meanwhile, like, what would Chopper really have done? You know what I mean? Really nothing.
yeah, so definitely a beautiful turn from the lost perspective, using all five of his Dawn as efficiently as possible, getting 3 1 drops down, getting maximum value out of the Machino, and then being able to bounce both of them back in order to play La Nico Robin. And this Nico also very important because the Brule has not been used, and now this Robin is going to deal with the Brule for free. So many different circumstances working perfectly for the Law player. And other than seeing a secondary 5 drop Law, he's curved out perfectly so far.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. And then again, with the Bonnie on the field, it's like, man, we just get to draw probably 2 additional cards next turn off of Bonnie and maybe the Nami in hand as well. So just really strong here. And I mean, the yellow board, it's full as well, but it's full of a bunch of stuff that doesn't do very much right now. So it's definitely in this spot of just like not really doing much, you know.
Yeah, so the Lilin player went for a bit of a gamble in trying to disrupt a shambles on the last previous turn. If there were not 3 1 drops available in the hand, he wouldn't have been able to do that massive tempo play. So you can understand from that perspective how it might have worked out, just slowing him down an entire turn cycle, but having those 3 1 drops back to back to back helped the law player, be in the position that he is right now. So.
Now, what's cool though is that now we get to set our trigger here. So now we officially have a card we want at the top of our deck. It could be, I mean, it could be a lot of things, but basically the trigger is going to be probably pretty impactful to the board, I would assume.
So here, chip damaging. Yeah, definitely the trigger is going to be powerful, being a card that he placed from his end himself. And at the same time, he also got aggression in with the 7K attack. Taking this 5K indicates to me that he's both has a very powerful hand and at the same time wants access to all his radical beams going into the mid game here. So after 2, like I've said in previous rounds, it's good to start blocking from here with the 5 drop law with other resources. But for the most part, you can very safely go to 2 with a red deck and not feel too threatened. So let's see what he can do on this turn.
Yeah, Radical Beam just provides a huge cushion, basically. And we're going to start with the Bonnie.
So
Bonnie, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Bonnie looking at top 5, and there you go. He got the perfect curve out with the lot. I know how you feel about that, but
oh, that's so good.
Yes.
Yeah, that is honestly that's I mean, normally there's like Bonnie can get a lot of cards, but usually the best of the best target is the 5 drop law. There's obviously very specific situations where there might be a better card in one way, but man, Bonnie grab law just feels so bad. Like it feels terrible. It's just so strong,
Yeah, and now just getting outpaced in many different fronts, having the Brule popped for free with the Nico Robin, and then the Nico forcing a 5K to come down unless he wants to trigger that life that we know he placed there. But for the most part, I just feel like if he's taking 5s at this point in the game, it's going to be detrimental for his progress, and it just seems like he's going to opt to do it. And Jirahoji here might actually provide some sort of resources, discarding some useless cards in order to better deal with the board at
Mhm.
hand. But you know, aside from looping 10 drops later on, I'm not exactly sure if the yellow player can even get to that point from here.
Yeah, I mean they're in a little bit of a rough spot. I think they're the thing about yellow though is that like some you can just kind of fight for board as much as you can and then kind of hide behind your 10 drops. I do think that is a viable play.
Mhm.
But we'll kind of see. He discards a 7 drop there. We know he has a Katakuri, and this just happens to yellow a lot. You end up getting flooded with big bodies, and that way, like 555 can just really come down and just wreck you.
Oh,
Oh,
so
another Shirahoshi though. That's kind of cool.
yeah, so that's very nice in the sense that he stacked one from that he knew, and then he did actually not know about this one. So he actually gets to see quite a lot of cards from the top of his deck, a lot of options available to him in the following turn, and I would say that just replace one with the other is most likely what you want to do,
Yeah.
and then
Well, that's nice. Another Shirahoshi, but you're going down to 1 life here, so it is a little bit scary. Um, you know, going down to 1 life so early is just a little scary.
it's gonna take a string of a lot of soul focuses to get us
Yeah.
into this game. If he
Yeah, I
can.
mean, this turn's not even over. We're probably gonna see at least a little bit more aggression this turn.
So we either see a Rush Zora that we know that he has, or another setup type card, but it's most likely just going to be.
You just put back down the Nico Robin, or
Uh,
do you? What do you do? Hmm,
he
Okay, just
could,
put it back down.
yeah. So he could play Nico just to play around certain scenarios where another Brule goes in play, or
Hmm.
he could have done Zora. Either play feels like he's going to keep advantage. Playing the Nico now allows him to attack with Nico and then play the Rusher Zora later. So either way is fine, and this is going to be one of the more pivotal turns for the Lilium player. If he gets to stabilize in the next couple of turns, he might be okay, but it just seems like an uphill
Yep.
battle from here.
No, definitely. And I mean, man, it's just tough. I mean, the question always is now what happens, right? Because what do you play here that is impactful? Yellow does not have a bunch of removal. You can't really afford to play something like Thunderbolt here, go down to 0 life. So these laws are going to be, a big havoc to you. So it always comes down to like, well, what do we do now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so fell too far behind from this perfect curve
Yeah.
in the early game from Law. Law typically a very good matchup against Karakuri, and it doesn't seem like the Big Mom switch helps the matchup that much at all. And I just
No.
feel like it's just a difficult situation from the beginning. Too many efficient plays from the Law side.
Yeah, absolutely. It just that's the best way you can put it. Is it's super efficient, and it just really hurts. Like the Big Mom deck is just a little too slow to start.
Yeah, so definitely has a lot of powerful end game cards, but it's all about the early game and the mid game specifically when you play
Mhm.
against Law. And if you don't have a strategy in mind for all these 5 character wide boards, you're just going to fall a little too far behind. Now, we can still hope that with a couple of heals into some favorable triggers, the yellow player can eke out maybe another turn or two worth of surviving. But as it stands, in the course of the next turn or two is where the Law player is going to try and end the game. So let's see if we
Yep.
can actually close out. And here the 8 drop is going to insulate a little bit, putting the hit
Oh, there we go.
push you back. Yeah, so this is actually a very good card advantage loop. It's going to give another life, and in doing so, basically fog an extra attack from the side of the Law, and
Yep.
at the same time, it's going to draw an entire extra card. So all in all, a great
Mhm.
combo.
Yep. One of the best little synergies you have with Shirahoshi in your deck is, um, again, this is what when I said the triggers are just better in Big Mom. Like even though he did get like a lucky Shirahoshi, he put one there on purpose, setting up for this 8 drop Katakuri play, and it just very strong.
Yeah, and here
Oh, we're
Just
gonna find our untap law. I mean, he can kind of choose how he wants to play the rest of the turn, but he can absolutely put on a ton of aggression here.
yeah, so aggression is going to be the name of the next few turns for the law player. He's trying to close the game out while he has complete control. Make sure to cover all of his bases, not overextend too many of his cards, and just use the untapper. He might even leave the one of the law blockers untap after attacking, or he could just attack with it again. He gets to pick and choose how he wants to try to close the game up. But let's see how defensive he wants to be. We've seen that patience pays off when in winning positions like this, but we'll try to see how far the law player can go before passing the turn.
Yep, I think you do. You definitely have to deal some amount of damage this turn. Otherwise, you kind of start to lose track of the life thanks to the 10 drop Big Mom. So you definitely can't like just let them keep all their life and then go after board here. You definitely have to push somewhat.
Yeah, so like you're mentioning here, going ahead and pushing with Nico for a very decent attack. This might force out Nishiro Hoshi from life, or it might force out two Ks. No, two cards in general, a 2K and a 1K. So it just depends on if he wants to take this one or defend it and then take the damage from something like a 5-drop law attacking him later. So I'm going to choose to do the mermaid instead, and this gives him the maximum amount of options. So this is not too bad.
Yeah, definitely. And we know our opponent has the untap law, so it's one of those things where it's like the most he could really do is like make one of these laws an 8 and then swing with it. So that's like not super intimidating. It would cost the same 2Ks out of hand. It would cost 2 cards out of hand either way, right? So maybe he just says, I'm going to take this, and then we'll just draw. And looking like he's not opting for this line of play. He's just going to go 7K into lead. And you definitely don't want to take this one, right? This is the one you want to take.
Yeah, so we want to not take this one. Just discarding 2 cards per swing here is going to be very detrimental because we have this attack here, and then we either have a shambles with another attack or we just have a 7 from one of the laws. It looks like he's going to go ahead and use the effect, do the untapper, presumably. Or
no, the third law. Yeah. Very strong. Now, I will say, though, if we have a 10-cost Big Mom here, it is going to be pretty good for our Big Mom player. Not only do you put your opponent down to 1 life, but you have Katakuri to pressure that life very well. You might be able to force out one of these blockers, and then you can just go like 5/5 to get a couple cards out of the hand, right? So I would say like a 10-drop Big Mom here actually does feel pretty good. We could also just still lose by playing it because we know our opponent, looking at our opponent's board, they have a ton of crackback aggression. But I mean, I'm not really sure what else you're doing here to put yourself in winning positions.
Another scenario, he's been very aggressively discarding any cards in his hand that have no counter, and that includes a copy of the 10-drop mom. So there's a possibility that he didn't expect himself to be in this decently even position going into the 10-drop turn. So he might not even have a 10-drop available for himself.
Yeah,
that's also something that he didn't take into account. So either way, let's see if he has an 8-drop, he can actually put 2 on the leader, swap 1 of the life, and do the 8-drop on the mermaid again and try to survive another turn. That wouldn't be too terrible. Yeah. But he actually does have good foresight, having a 10-drop ready for this turn. And we'll see how far we can take him here.
Yeah, if you block with law here, you can just swing Katakuri into law, and I feel like it would feel good to get one of these laws out. You could also swing at the life and just force a block anyway. So no matter where you attack here, I think it's going to feel pretty good. Whether we get a lot of cards out of our opponent's hand or we end up killing a law blocker, it feels pretty strong. And that is not enough, right? That was only 8. So we need 1 more.
Yeah, so we'll see. 1 more K discarded from the player. I think he made the assumption that he blocked with one of the laws. Maybe he said it verbally and then discarded, and then they kind of like went back and forth there. But anyway, discarding a total of 9 and then passing the turn. So
yeah, Right. Yeah. Maybe a little confusion there. So again, honestly, a Big Mom is going to need a lot of combo power to get out. Brule, if you're, Brule is not really going to do too much because your opponent has a Nico Robin. You're going to need a lot of counter power and some decent shield triggers. It's doable, but once again, here we see the yellow deck living and dying off of the random life it's gotten over the course of the game. And we're really just going to have to see what that was,
Yeah, and the law player has actually felt completely in control over the last couple of turns, but now you see his hands are jittering a little bit. He is looking through his options a little bit more. It does feel like he believes that if he doesn't end the game on this turn, he's certainly going to be defeated on the following one. So he's trying to, think about all his options, think about how to best deliver lethal through any of those options that you just mentioned in life. But, if there's 2 triggers in that life, then there's a good possibility of surviving this turn.
Yeah, a Thunderbolt would be crazy here because you get to snipe one of the laws. A Sovereignty would be good because it gets dead cards. And instead, I mean, it ended up being nothing. So, which is, again, that's what you want to see when you're law. Again, yellow decks are they're a little too like RNG heavy, in my opinion, because it just doesn't feel good when a random card is winning or losing the game,
Yeah,
so here we're going 9 on law. So if you couldn't out combo a 7, you probably can't out combo a 9.
Yeah, not defending that 7 is a little bit concerning, especially considering that we both know that there's a restand law available as well. So these 9s are going to be the standard number from here on out. So definitely was important to try to stop that 7 earlier. But as things stand, we see a 9 here, and going down to 0 here would be very concerning.
Yeah, you're pretty much for. I mean, like you said, I would really like to see him out counter that 7. Just ending up now, you're just at the mercy of these laws. Like they're going to attack for way too much, way too quick, basically.
And I do want to mention the importance of Nico Ramen over the course of this entire game, because it popped already one Brule earlier, and now it's threatening to pop another Brule that randomly gets delivered from this last life. So good sequencing from the law side, not attacking with this Nico Robin yet until the final life is revealed.
Yep.
And then, especially since committing 2 Dawn to the law leader is such a big investment, defending that would have been nice. But now, this 9 is a heavy consideration. We do see 3 cards leaving the hand.
And that is even an over counter. Yeah, I really just feel like you should have gotten out of the 7. I mean, it's pretty tough here.
It's going to be.
We're going to pick up the Dawn, grab the untap. All right.
Swing. Now he's going to probably have to take this last 9, and something really special has to be here. A Sovereignty trigger been really insane. So,
yeah, it would have felt good. I mean, but again, don't quite get there, unfortunately. And now we're going to go 5 on Robin.
So that last card, if it's a 1K, then there are universes where he can try to get out of this. If he has all 2. If he has all 2Ks in his hand, he might actually survive.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. The thing is, though, like he over countered, right? So the fact that he over countered on one swing really is like it's tough. And it looks like we're not even. Are we not? Okay, it looks like we're not swinging with our blockers.
Interesting.
Giving him a new lease on life here.
So now something like Thunderbolt from the top could be instrumental. Oh, you actually can't Thunderbolt on 0.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So not an out here, but let's see if he can, through the course of attacking with an 8K and a 12, try to get through this. Actually, I think this chopper was incredibly important because now this 12 is just mitigated by the tiny Tony. But actually, it's very disciplined from the side of the law to just take his time.
There we go. We have a Streusen to get rid of the chopper anyway. That is huge.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And now there's actually lethal possibilities if we try to play around Radical Beam plus a few defensive options. And the law player's hand is only 4 cards, maybe 4 cards.
Yeah. So. At the end of the day, you're not out countering this Big Mom, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie. So, do you just go ahead and swing with the 10 drop to force one of the blockers, and then like it feels correct to just like get like the big mom is a certainty, right? At least in my mind. So it's just like, yeah, just swing with the big mom, force out a blocker. That way, there's one less thing to think about. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, exactly. So you limit the amount of processes that you need to think of in your brain. If you just go ahead and attack with the 12 first, that 12 takes a blocker 100% of the time. Eliminate that mental resource or mental tax of yourself, and then continue with the rest of your dawn assignment. Definitely, I would have previously considered the yellow player unable to win, but the law player not going for an all-in there, it was disciplined in the sense that it was very likely that through all the card cycling, the big mom player had 4 2Ks in hand. It was a likely thing to have. But now you just give him a new lease on life when popping that chopper. So I think leaning on that chopper and having it get popped was something he was not expecting. So
okay. Nice swing with the Paraspera at 7. I like this as well. And we're just going to force the Radical Beam. Okay.
Yeah, so this forces the beam, and now there's 3 cards in hand. A lot of them could actually be no counter and only 2 blockers. So there is a world where if he assigns his Dawn in the proper order, he can win. So he just has to take his time, really consider his options. I do believe that an 8K attack just takes one of these blockers out. So if the 8K and the 12 both take 2 blockers, then this... So how would you do? Again, just swing with the 12. I think that's something that happens no matter what.
Yeah. I think if you swing with 9, I think 9 guarantees it. And then the leader can just clean it up. So you swing with the 10 drop, force a block, swing with 9, force a block, and then the leader just cleans it up. So, I don't think it has to be much more complicated than that. I don't know what else he would be thinking about, maybe putting Dawn on the pudding, but that doesn't feel right either because it would just be better served on the leader. So,
So I do believe 10, 10, 12 is magic numbers. 10, 10, 12 against 3 cards in hand. There is no combination. Yeah. Unless it's actually 3 2Ks, but that's very unlikely in the scenario.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and I don't like this. No, that is not correct. Oh, maybe now, like you're putting a lot of respect on this pudding here. This definitely doesn't feel correct to do it this way. There we go. And we knew one of the cards was the Dawn as well, so that just does not feel correct. Okay, yeah, there you go, pudding. We're putting mad respect on pudding here. All right. There we go. And does that get out of it? What is pudding at? I couldn't. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pudding is at an 8 actually, right? It's +6, so it's 8.
So he's at 5, so it's at 7. So this can't actually be out countered. So we go for a block here. So mandatory block here, and actually he revealed his hand, so we already know it's game on board.
That is game on board. We're gonna block, and then the big mom's gonna go in, and okay, pudding, earn that paycheck. It's okay. Earn that paycheck, pudding. All right, I don't hate it. I think it worked out. Knowing pudding could get to 7, it kind of worked out the same way. But yeah, that math was a little